Hi, I'm Matt Hines here at the DevOps Enterprise Summit 2016 on DevOps TV for DevOps.com. We're here with Terri from Raytheon. How's the show been going so far for you?
Oh, it's great. It's a really awesome show. I always love being here. There's such great content and you know, it's just so inspiring to be here. You always come away charged up and excited to go back and do more great things in your organization.
Yeah, and there's no doubt you can hear the evolution of the conversation here at this conference, right? Things are changing and maturing around DevOps concepts very quickly, clearly.
Right. And I love that, because I attend a lot of conferences, and I love that at this conference there are so many great conversations to have, and no matter who you sit with at lunch or who you bump into in the hall, there's always something great to talk about, and that's not always true at big conferences.
It's funny, they reach a tipping point where I think there's less of that, and this space still has a lot of the grassroots feel to it, right?
Yes, definitely.
You've got the interesting, again, foresight of DevOps in the government space. Raytheon does obviously a lot of business with folks in the federal government space. What are some of the, we've been talking a lot about transformation. How is government DevOps transformation evolving? What are some of the interesting tendencies that you're seeing?
So it's a little tough, you know, to be a contractor and to want to be on the leading edge, because we mirror our customers, right? So sometimes it's all about educating our customers, and we're in a risk-averse world. Right? So our customers don't like to take risks. They feel like if they try to answer all their questions up front, there's less risk. Of course, we know, those of us that have been doing this for a while and have been coming to the DevOps conferences know that trying to answer all the questions ahead of time doesn't necessarily reduce your risk, but they're still of that ilk. They still think that that's the way they're going to reduce their risk.
Sure.
And they have process risk too, right? And they have a lot of big process built in, you know, to the way they do business, and they're slow to change. And so sometimes it's a matter of us trying to educate our close customers to say, we think this is the way you want to go. We think you want to go faster. Let us help you get there faster by showing you how to move toward DevOps. Sometimes they say no. Sometimes they jump on board and say sure. Most recently, we've had customers that have been saying no, no, no for years, and now having contracts that are struggling, not performing the way the customers would have wanted.
Sure.
Suddenly hearing about DevOps and saying, why aren't you using DevOps? We need you to use DevOps, right? And we're kind of going, yeah, all right, we want to use DevOps.
Right. Yeah, well, it's not to beat up in the government, right? But agile and government are not usually the terms that we think of first in relation to each other. But there have been some interesting projects, right? I know there's some folks involved in trying to drive agile government. So where are the victories? You know, where are we seeing, or where again is Raytheon seeing some, you know, some change or some movement in terms of where the change is actually happening?
We're starting to see requests for proposals come out of the intelligence community, looking specifically for proposals to be submitted that include DevOps. They're actually using those words. And in fact, early this year, we had a proposal that said that not only did they have to display in the proposal that they were going to use DevOps, but they had to demonstrate through a couple weeks of 1 week sprints where they had to be videotaped and show that we had a full DevOps stack, that we were able to, you know, build, deploy, you know, the whole works, and had all the tools working together, and we're able to plan the stories, execute the the development and the whole works. So we're starting to see some of those things, which is exciting for me because, you know, for a while when you keep saying, hey, we need to do DevOps, this will help us get faster, but the proposals don't say anything about it and the customers don't know anything about it, right? It seems to be about business value, right? And when you turn it around and the customer doesn't know anything about it, it doesn't seem to have any value. So when we start seeing it in proposals, that's a positive thing for us.
Yeah, it would seem hard to do DevOps when you're not explicitly aimed at doing DevOps.
Right. And the Air Force is starting to get on board, so we're starting to see some movement around DevOps from the Air Force, where they've recently been educated and suddenly they're starting to say, oh my gosh, you're right, we should be doing DevOps. What is it going to take? How do we transition to start doing DevOps? That's really exciting. It's going to take a lot of work hand in hand between Raytheon and the Air Force, because while they want the benefits and they're excited and they want to see those capability being delivered quickly and higher productivity, they're still afraid to let go of a lot of the things that slow you down, right? So it's going to be a process, right? Just the process of making change will be slower than it would necessarily be at a commercial company.
Sure, right. Cultural entrenchment. We're on the cusp of an election here, right? No statements whatsoever politically, but you know, it's always a topic in mind. Would you say that is still the biggest challenge facing the government space in general? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but is it that, you know, again, they really need to take a closer look at how they align from a cultural standpoint to try to allow some of this work to get done? Or
certainly there's the cultural issues. They're going to have to realign, right? So I said in my presentation that companies talk about DevOps or DevSecOps. At a company like Raytheon, it's more like systems, software integration, CM, QA, ops, right? We have many more organizations, many more silos, but those silos reflect our customer silos. So they've got to talk about doing some reorganization, because our organization always has to reflect their organization. So they're going to have to go through some cultural or some organizational change internally. And then of course there's the whole security issue, right? Because government systems have to be even more secure than, you know, what you're purchasing somewhere. As painful as it is, if you purchase something and your credit card gets compromised, think about the pain if the next generation GPS system gets compromised.
Right.
Right? So that is really high priority for us, and they're not going to cut us any slack on the security of the next generation GPS satellite ground station. So we have to get that right. And so that's definitely a hurdle, and it's always going to be a hurdle, and we want to get that right. We don't want there to be any issues with that. Right.
No, we've referenced in this conversation, right, intelligence and the Air Force, and eyes in the sky, right? It's pretty interesting stuff, certainly within the context of DevOps. So thanks again for joining us. It was, I think, it's a very interesting conversation again about how things are starting to turn in the government space around DevOps.
Yeah, it's exciting for us. We're looking forward to the changes.
Yeah, we'll see, right? More changes to come.
Definitely.
In the government space.
Definitely.
We'll see. By the time this video posts, we'll have some answers. Anyhow, thanks for joining us again here at the DOES 16 conference, DevOps TV for DevOps.com. Really appreciate the time and the conversation.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.